That's good.
Hello, dreamers and thinkers, and welcome back to another episode of Undone. On today's episode, I have special guests. Some of you may know them, some of you may not. So I'm going to be introducing you guys to Rumbie and Amanda from It's Layered podcast. In my head, I always hear the DJ welcome. This has been like months in the making.
Definitely.
I am so excited.
So are we.
Okay, so let's tell the people, what do you guys do? What's It's Layered? How did we get here? They are Zim girls, by the way. This is how this happened. Because I was like, there are other Zim girls in the podcast.
It's not a thing, by the way. Anyone listening?
No, it is.
263, yeah, okay.
We rep 263 hard. But yeah, what is It's Layered? What do you guys do?
I literally always
us.
let Rumbie answer this question.
And I
So
always feel
shame.
like, why? You should
Shame.
answer.
But here we go. Rumbie, take the floor.
Yeah, I thought we were going to be new year, new you.
Yeah,
We're going to let you.
And I'm like, some things are set in stone, no matter which year
fair
we're in.
I mean, you can always add on, but we are It's Layered Podcast. We are a podcast that started during the COVID era, and basically we delve deeper into anything and everything based on our long distance friendship. We've been friends for over 20 years. That's what we say now.
At some point, you stop counting.
Yeah,
It's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. And just really just talking about all things life, things we don't talk about, things that are taboo, things that a lot of us can relate to, and kind of we go there basically.
Yeah.
That's our podcast.
I love it.
Yeah, perfect. You see, this is why I let her answer.
Honestly, I have nothing to
I
add.
know you have nothing to add.
Is it your tagline? Je n'aime pas layers.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
just like
Malaya.
that.
Delve deeper, Gina Malaya.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. In this podcast, we'll probably speak in Shona at some point. I'm just going to put this out there. Try our best to translate as we go.
Yeah,
but if we don't, sorry. Yeah, literally.
Sorry, not sorry.
Something, it just missed you. Let it miss you. Okay, so we're going to start with unpopular opinions. This is my favorite part. I love it so much. I heard Kylie, who's my little sister, who's behind the cameras today, share hers before, and you guys were like, oh.
Yeah, that was a sharp left turn.
Yeah. She has a very serious, unpopular.
Yeah, we're not going to share because I don't want to get canceled because I know it.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, at least now you guys know it's a safe space. You can share anything.
Definitely.
What's your unpopular opinion?
You know, I was thinking about this as I was driving here, and I was like, what is I don't think I'm usually like a hot take person. But maybe it's because of Christmas. But like, I reckon cancel Christmas. That's my hot take.
Oh, that's really big. You didn't, what?
Like,
You said I'm not usually a hot take person.
I got reasons. It's just because like, I feel like it's corporate greed. It's not Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh,
So don't
yeah.
cancel the actual idea of Christmas. But like, who went to mass?
Yeah.
Who actually knows? I actually saw someone on Twitter, right? He is risen. I'm like, girl, that is Easter, not
Bro, that's crazy.
not Christmas. So I just feel like the whole idea of Christmas is not even. And then also the way the world is so global now. Why are we celebrating a Western holiday and giving it all this free time and not all the other ones? Like, then if you're going to have Christmas, you have to have Eid, you're going to have Ramadan. Like, let's just
All of
go
it,
all
yeah.
there, you know? So, yeah, cancel Christmas is my hot take.
No, we're talking about this in the group chat, and yes, because we're like, when did Christmas become about all of this? Like, take it back, or like, you know, in the African American movies, they'll be like, oh, we're gonna go to the soup kitchen, and we're gonna do that. I was like, bring that back. Let's do
Bring that back. Where these kids
Yeah.
aren't opening 10 presents and are not grateful for any of them.
Yeah.
True. You sang Jesus is the reason for the season, yeah.
Rumbie breaks into song for those who
I
don't
don't
know.
There really is a song like that. It's one of those gospel American, of course.
Yeah.
Songs. Jesus is the reason for the season. Okay.
I love it.
So I love the idea of Christmas, and obviously, hello, but then just the way it is now is not Christmas.
Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like.
I almost canceled our friendship there when you said that. Then
Yeah, and then also that
brought it
people
back.
base their whole personalities. I'm a Christmas girly. I'm like,
Okay, I am a Christmas girly, so
Your Christmas girly.
relax.
We need to control y'all.
Relax, not too much now. We were with you.
You're the ones who were like taking it to the next level.
I actually was saying to people, I was like, you need to remember why. Actually, this Christmas as we were preparing, I was like, remember why we celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
But touche, I won't lie. Sometimes I get carried away and I have to reel myself back in.
Yeah. No, I do feel that. I felt that. Okay. Rumbie, what's yours?
Unpopular opinion, I think we all need to cancel all our celebrities. Just cancel any fave just cancel all celebrities.
Individually or like the concept of celebrities?
Just both, I think. I think we should stop idolizing them, putting them on pedestals. I think we should stop believing they are this great human being. I think if anything taught us in 2024, it was that celebrities are real like you and I and do some really scary things.
Yeah.
It's not worse.
Exactly. So I think we need to just cancel this idea that, when like if you say, I don't like Beyonce, everyone's like, I'm going to come for you and your mama. And it's like, maybe we
don't know both of you.
Exactly.
No, actual.
Exactly.
She doesn't know either of us. It's okay, relax.
Exactly. So relax. But I think we should just cancel that because then we won't be so disappointed. Perhaps I'm trying to save myself.
Yes.
Ruby knows 2025 is going to come for her childhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, your faves are coming up on that list. The list that hasn't been released yet.
Let me start cancelling them now.
Yeah, let me prepare.
Making peace with it.
Because wow. And then there are those of them who lost battles and then are now suing people. I won't name names, but you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I think I don't think it's unpopular, but I think like all of this, cancel all of them. Just enjoy their craft or art and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're one of those people who's like separate the...
No.
Oh.
No.
The immediate.
Because yesterday we were at a day party and then they played, I was dancing and then they played Diddy, and as much as I love
Straight
more
after
money,
Cassie,
more
though.
problems. Yeah, exactly. It really
That's
was.
crazy. That was problematic.
Yeah, that was very problematic.
But I took a seat and I was like, I am not gonna dance to this. So
No,
there's
thank
some.
you.
I feel like there are levels.
Yeah, there's levels.
I mean, we're all human, but
Yeah.
come on
now. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I like that one. Okay, well, mine was lighthearted, I guess, in comparison. Now that I was like,
You
I
can
should've
bring
gone
your
first.
sisters. You can bring your sisters one back.
See, she stole that one from me, actually. If I have to compare.
Okay.
That's not the first way she heard that one, but that's not the point. Although I gave it a little more nuance than she did. Now I'm tempted. Should I?
Yes, of
Please
course.
do.
Okay, I'm not gonna name where I was in the same. Okay, so the unpopular opinion is you said that bullying is okay. Is that what you said? Yeah, some people
back
do
bullying.
You said bring back bullying. Okay, to add more context to bring back bullying, right? It's feedback. So I was somewhere and this lady was like, "Oh, my kid is annoying me. I'm gonna leave the kid with you guys."
Wait, what?
Right? And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like we were playing with the other kids, like. Let me give a fake scenario of like, okay, you're like at one of those African parties at a house or something. You know how there's always the room with the kids and it's the older kids looking after the kids. Yeah, so it's one of those ones. She's like, oh, my kid is annoying me. I'll leave you guys. I'm going to give you guys the kid. I was like, okay, cool. The kid comes. My goodness, was the kid annoying. I was like,
Ma'am.
maybe it wasn't that the kid was annoying you, then it is your kid is annoying in general. And then I was like, see, this is the kind of kid that gets bullied at school because you're crying all the time, you don't know how to share, you're annoying, everything must go like it was one of those kids. And I was like, oh. So when we say bring back bullying, we're just saying we should bring back formal feedback.
So we can have
We
some
need to bring
manners.
back feedback. Yes.
Yeah.
You need to know what's socially acceptable and what's not.
That is true.
So bullying is a very serious issue.
I'm so glad you gave nuance because
Yeah.
when we first landed, we're like, ooh.
I don't know how I feel about that.
No, it's the same way celebrities get canceled, and then all the other celebrities know, okay, this is what the masses are okay with, and this is what they're not okay with. It's like,
I feel like stand-up comedians had that phase where they realized the line has to be drawn.
that there is a line.
You know, when we grew up, it was just like
Anything
free-for-all.
goes.
Yeah.
But now I think due to a few people being cancelled or, being reprimanded in some way, they're like, oh, we can't. And now they try to make a joke about that.
Yeah, and it's like,
comedy is
no.
not the same, but it's like, no.
We see you. You
Yeah.
just want to make
Yeah,
the
you
joke
just
about
wanna
that.
make the joke. Now you're trying to make it seem like you're talking about the joke in a joke.
No, I
Clocked
agree.
it.
Right? How was Beyond the Valley? I want to know. They did a live podcast for those of you who don't know.
You know what? I don't know how you do it, like live.
See,
You,
my first
like-
one was a debate. which was great because I didn't have to do the talking. I just had to moderate. And so everyone else did the talking. Okay. So when you said that to me, I was like, oh no, I copped out of the whole live thing because I just had to introduce everything and then be like, okay, what? And like, anyway, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, okay. But even then, still like
the energy in the room, you have to control it.
Yes. And you feel it live. Like you can feel the shift as it's happening. It's insane.
And you feel like now we're easing into things.
Yes.
You know? You feel that, that the whole, went too far, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
it was interesting, but I was really, really grateful to get to do it with Rumbie because obviously we remotely recorded a podcast.
Yeah.
So to actually be in the same space to begin with and then having a new experience together.
Yeah.
It was just, for me, like, I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah,
So
I
glad.
had like an emotional moment while we were waiting, like backstage to go, and I was like, "Thanks, guys!" Like to the team who were with us. Shout out to them. They were like, I was like, "Thanks, guys, for being here with us in this moment." You know, Rumbie in her feels. But truly, truly surreal. I think sometimes when we start these things as creatives, you don't know. Honestly, like we just started it. Just you know, like press play. Press record rather, and so to be here it's kind of like a say what now moment, but it happened so fast, like it happened like that in the blink of an eye, and I wouldn't have wanted to do it with anyone else. I think just because we just get each other, and it just felt really comforting to do it together. But it was a great experience.
I'm sure when we watch the episode back when it's available, we'll be like, you did talk about, like, you know what I mean? It's like one of those,
you forget
you
what
forget,
you're talking about in the moment.
I definitely did. I definitely
really
did.
do.
Yeah, it was great.
It was good.
No, I agree. Because like in a setting like this, you're like calm, you're relaxed, you're talking. Whereas then you've also got the adrenaline of like,
I'm in front of people.
But I'm also trying to create. No.
It's
a
real.
lot.
It's real.
I love it. That's so exciting.
It's amazing.
It's really good.
Okay, so you shared a little bit about, I guess, sharing this new experience together as like friends. Has that been really important to do, considering you guys are long distance, like creating, like being intentional about creating new memories and sharing new experiences together?
That's a great question. I think yes, to keep the friendship alive, like any relationship, you have to work at it. And I don't like the word work, but like you need to invest in the friendship or the relationship. But I think, to be fair, with this podcast, it's like, oh, why not? Like we just always have this. I think that's always our stand. We're like, oh, well, why not? And I think this is a really good question because I think I look at our friendship and podcast as one but different. I separate the two as much as they're interlinked in a lot of ways. It's very important because I think our friendship is very sacred, and that's the most. And we always tell each other, "Let me know when you're ready to tap out. Like let me know when it's enough." So I don't know if I answered the question, but I guess I invest in the friendship.
Yeah.
You see, this is why she answers.
I was like, Amanda, are you gonna be like, look, that was a great answer onto the name?
Follow up with that. Like, I think for me, it's also the fact that, you know, when you've been friends for so long, and we were from when we were in high school, so like formative years, as you were saying, until now, we've had so many experiences. So then the few that you do, the two of you, or that are new for both of you at the same time, you cherish, obviously.
Yeah.
So obviously when our podcast first went on Spotify, we were like, what the hell? You know, it's like those little moments that I think when we're 80, we're still going to be like, remember we did that?
Yeah.
And I think not a lot of people get that in friendships. I mean, you share experiences, but you share them at the same time in the exact same context, not always, which is fine. But we definitely have this special aspect to our friendship. And it's like recorded in time, you know what I mean? It's a stamp in time. And when we're in our 50s, 60s, we're going to be different people, probably different friends to each other too.
Yeah.
And we'll always have this recorded in time. So it's quite a special thing. Yeah.
Like, it's like all those memories are immortalized.
Yeah,
You get to like, go back and be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
We always say our kids can listen back and be like, Mama and
Like,
Auntie,
oh,
what
they're
rubbish
on,
were they
oh,
talking
they-
about? What were they on, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah. So take us back in time to 20 however many years ago when you guys first met. Was it love at first sight? What was it? Did you guys was it a frenemy situation? What was the vibes?
It's so funny because people always ask us this, and and I think both of us have admitted we don't really know the exact. Yeah. So I'll give you the scenario, the setup. Obviously, we went to a high school that was predominantly white. So we I think 20 in a class of 50, so 30 white girls, 20 black girls.
Yeah.
So I felt like we all became friends at once. You know, like the first time you all go to a Shona class and you're like all then segregated, you're like, okay.
Thank goodness.
And I felt like we all, then there was a certain time when obviously then you start having your little connections. For me personally, it was Rumbie's love of music and my own love of music. And then that just locked it in. Like, you know, you go to choir and you're like, oh, this girl is cool. Like, you know, you start like then getting to know each other apart from the surface. Hi, we're all friends.
Yeah.
You know? And then I think when we were like in Form 3.
Yeah. We shared a dorm.
Shared a dorm together. And again, the love of music was there since the beginning. And it just cemented, I suppose, the relationship from then on. That's when it probably gained momentum as a separate two. We're all friends, you know.
Yeah, and then you guys
black girls together.
Yeah. For me, I think I distinctly remember, I think a moment where I felt the trust in the friendship, where it really felt like, I see Amanda, maybe in a way not everyone sees her. Yeah. We used to take walks around the cross-country course, like to catch up or whatever. And
that's so cute.
We went for a walk, and I think I've brought this up before in some episode, who knows where. And we're talking about Amanda, someone who people are drawn to and people go to for support, for advice, to like offload to. And I remember when she was like, but who's looking out for me? I'll never forget that conversation. I think it's just like that cemented in my brain that, oh, actually we're like friends. She can confide in me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
But everything else she said is absolutely accurate. Like, I don't remember a moment where I was like, Amanda, I see you, you see me, let's be homies.
We see each other. Yeah, like you're my person now. So then what was that transition? Because a lot of friendships go through, like, either they just disintegrate after high school or they get a lot closer. So, like, what was the transition when you guys finished high school and you weren't in that setting? It's like, now I have to choose to be your friend. Yeah.
I think we were also blessed. Well, I probably shouldn't say blessed because Mark Zuckerberg, who knows? But Facebook then launched as well. Like as soon as we finished high school.
Oh,
so it was like
there was high five first.
Yeah, there was high five, but then the one that
your
really.
sister doesn't even.
She wouldn't know.
Like, high five.
No.
What is this? But like, you know, like the age of social media, so you could be miles apart and feel connected.
Yeah.
And I think that then just helped things because then you could still. Of course, maybe not every day chat, but you could definitely always check up on each other.
Yeah.
And even if it's like you post all your photos from the night you went out yesterday, you know, then Ruby would comment on them and vice versa.
Yeah.
So you were living separate lives. She's in South Africa, I'm here, but you were still connected.
I was going to say, were you guys
still connected?
Long distance from the end of high school?
Long distance since high school then.
Yo, you guys have this thing down pat. I need to take notes.
Do you have any long distance friends?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky in that, so we all like were in the same hometown in Australia. And then I moved to Melbourne. And then it just so happened that the other three, by way of whatever, ended up moving as well. Okay. But then our other two friends live in Perth. And so it's like now we're navigating the whole like, and even in Melbourne, we all don't really live on the same side of town. So it can basically be a long distance relationship.
Live like that.
Especially as you get older.
Yeah.
It really shifts. And it really is an investment of time and effort.
Yeah.
And I think what would happen with us is whenever she was on holiday coming to Zim, or like if we somehow were going to be in the same space together, it was like, oh, we should meet up. I think it started initially like that.
Yeah.
And then it was like she was coming home to Zim, and then she'd say, and I was in South Africa at the time, she'd be like, okay, I'll come through South Africa at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so making stopovers. And then travel started happening like as we got older.
And the communication too, like, you know, you can have fluff conversations. It's probably was the foundation of our podcast, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can have, obviously you have the fluff conversations. Did you see what Beyonce did? And you laugh. But then you can also have the like hour, 2 hour, 3 hour proper let's get into it. Like, you know, I don't know your work friends. I don't know what they look like, but, you know, tell me your work drama or vice versa. And I think those conversations just keep things going. Sometimes I'll tell Rumbie things that I'm like, people around me, like in a circle, whatever, here, don't really know. But it's like she can also offer that perspective because she's not in it.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's your friends that are also invested, sometimes they kind of like, they
It's
answer you with
a bit biased.
Yeah,
It's a bit different.
with a don't do that because I don't want you to, Even when I moved from Perth to Melbourne, Rumbie was one of the first people I told. I was like, I'm thinking of this before I even told my Perth friends. Because I knew they would be like, no, don't move.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no. But I knew she would give me that perspective of, okay, whether in Melbourne or Perth, I just want to hear why.
Yeah.
Friendship groups, and you mentioned the whole dynamic of I don't know. Yeah, I was like, we're going there. I don't know your other friends. You have different friends. You've got
No new friends.
Yeah. Exactly. So how do you manage the tension around that, where it's like this is my day one, but like also you guys are close, but then also like just like each other.
Have you ever seen that meme when it's like my friends all at my birthday party and it's like different people dressed differently, and you're trying to make them mingle? Nah, I think we've been lucky. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, Rumbie.
Like over to you.
I don't know. I never thought about this that deeply. I think, look, people in my life, especially in Australia, everyone I met here, I didn't know quite as well or know at all in high school. So for me personally, there was a mad respect when people met Rumbie because they had heard about her and talked about her. It wasn't like I hid her.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, but she lives in South Africa. Oh my gosh, she's in Zim or wherever she was, or in Prague. So people knew. Then they're like, I think a lot of reactions like, oh my gosh, I finally get to meet you is the initial reaction. But then I think when they see how we vibe, and obviously she gets another part of me that you probably only get if you grew up with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I think it's a bit like, because it's like, I've never seen this side of
Who
her.
is this?
Who is this girl who's just
Yeah.
randomly dancing and singing along? So I think it's also like oh my gosh, so the people who are open and love seeing different parts of you are fine with it because they're enjoying this other part of you they don't see. The people who are like, oh, I thought I knew all of you and don't have room, then struggle with it.
Yeah.
Which is a personal, you never know.
How
I think it speaks to a thing on ownership, right, in friendship.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big misconception that when you're friends with someone, you own them. I don't know if that's even the right term, but walk with me.
Yeah.
I think there's a sense of like, because you're my friend, I know all of you, and therefore all of that is mine. And so when there's a different side shown, it's like, oh, it feels like betrayal.
Yeah.
But truly, friendship is an honor, right?
Yeah.
It's the ability to get to be in communion or in relation with someone where you get maybe a certain aspect of them, but you're grateful for that aspect because it also brings out a certain aspect of you, and you bring a certain aspect out of them.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's very difficult to be like, oh, this is my only friend, and I can only have one friend.
Yeah.
I think it's really dangerous. So I think there's an ownership thing sometimes in friendship that can be dangerous. But to your question, I think I've been fortunate in certain areas like weddings, like when I was planning my Rora, and I had friends from different worlds come together. From what I could see, at least, sometimes you don't know, right?
People are faking it, and then they're behind the scenes like,
exactly.
Maybe hiding from you what's happening.
Exactly. But what I could see, I think there was a calm around me.
Yeah.
And they made me really feel at peace and at ease.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, okay, like, it's okay. You know, it wasn't, I wasn't running to be like, oh, no, but then that was an indicator. And I know, like, some of them probably that was the only time they'll ever see each other, right? And that's okay. And then some then connect in different ways too, outside of you, sometimes even. So, yeah.
And similar too, I think because you had talked about your friends so much that I felt like I knew them. Have you ever had that with social media? You like meet someone, you feel like, hey, and you're like, oh, actually, they don't
I don't know you, but like, I know you.
I don't know you. What's happening here? Like, it really was like that. And I think because they had that energy too, because they'd heard about me, it was like kismet. Like, it just worked. We were lucky, obviously. We haven't had like huge blow ups. But obviously, there is sometimes we're like, And even with the podcast, when we launched, because we did it, I don't know if we did it in silent or we just...
I feel like you're making moves in
we
silence.
Just did it. Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
So we're like, what do you mean? Like, I think that was... It almost brought all those feelings you're talking about to the forefront. Maybe more so for the both of us that we didn't even realize our friends might have had.
Yeah.
Because we were like, oh, this actually is a problem for A, B, and C. You know?
And to that point, I think I've also noticed certain friends who know about the podcast and support it, and friends who just never comment.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
so
a
interesting.
thing.
People don't
It's
realize
so
that.
weird.
It's, and I'm not talking like peripheral.
Yeah.
Like people acquaintances. No, I'm talking about like friends who you have shared really important experiences and continue to communicate with. And I think to her point, that really brought it to light for me. And at first I was like, oh, but why aren't they like supporting, you know? I made them aware. But at the end of the day, I've just learned, and I think we've both learned on this journey, it's just like, sometimes it's not the closest people to you who support that, but it really is.
And I think that's with any business,
Yeah,
right? They
100%.
say you shouldn't think your clients are going to be
your
your friends
friends,
and family. Of course, you want that.
You want it to
In an
be the
ideal
case,
world,
100%.
yes. But most times it isn't. And I think it was really confronting.
Yeah.
We definitely talked about it. Like, why are people having a problem with
Yeah.
this? But
Because to
people
you, you're like,
were.
this is a beautiful thing. This is
Yeah.
fun. We're embarking on this
And
journey.
also
Oh my
because as
goodness.
Black Zimbabwean women, we were
Yeah.
just so pro that messaging
Yeah.
of, oh my gosh, do you talk about Rora? Like, all of a sudden, this Tete you never talk to
Yeah.
is
Has
telling
to
you what
now-
to do.
yeah.
Now so now be your bestie. And you're like,
Yeah.
girl,
Who
I
are
don't
you?
know you.
Who are you?
Yeah, so now we're like, okay, let's tell other people about this, you know? And then it's like, don't you see what we're doing? Don't you see the vision? But then it's like people just saw you guys are actually close. You know? And you're like,
yeah.
Why? Why
Yeah.
you hang up on that? That's
Yeah.
not the bigger picture.
And in creating in silence, I think we were just, as creators do, you often just do in silence without the outside noise.
Yeah.
You
think-
have to shut out the outside noise to create. Otherwise, if too much of it gets in you, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But it can seem like you were withholding, but it's
Yeah.
like, actually, no, we're figuring it out. Because literally, we figured out, like, okay, so
Yeah.
how do we get this online? Like,
Yeah.
all those things. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
As you guys were speaking, I was remembering this C.S. Lewis quote that he has in, I think it's The Four Loves, and he's talking about how you said friendship is like an honor to be in someone's life, and as someone's friend, you get to partake in the parts of you that they share, but then also as you witness them interact with their other friends, you get to see that other side of them, and you can't like. You should be excited to see the other side of them that another friend brings out versus being like, why don't I bring that out of you? Which I think is often like where the ownership comes in, where it's like, if we're as close as you say we are, why don't I get that side of you? Or why don't I bring that out of you? It's like, isn't that about
I've
you?
seen it in another space, especially being in diaspora with siblings.
Yeah.
So, you know, like obviously, I mean, if you've moved here with your family, it might be different. But if you don't move here with family, so you have your family in Zim or the UK, wherever, and then like at weddings or family, your friends that are now family and your actual family meet.
Yeah.
Because then like you're like, okay, when I'm renting my apartment in Melbourne, you're my next of kin. I can't be putting my sister.
Yeah,
But
who's
then
where, yeah.
now we're at a wedding. She's actually seen as having more hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
because
such
she's my blood.
Yeah, and it's another time when you have to really question and like, especially because your friends are like, oh, we know you, we've done this for you, and then your family's like, well, I'm your family.
I'm your family. Like, and then,
Yeah,
like,
and
they're
then
your
it's
friends.
like,
Like,
yeah,
And
we're
I
little
actually felt
friends.
that at, I think it was Rora, but no one ended up talking. And they asked, who do you want to say a speech
yeah.
at the wedding? And I had said, my sister and Amanda.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like brushed aside. And I just remember being like, but like, I don't think people understand the importance of that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, you know, you're just you go all over the place. So I didn't even like insist on that. And I didn't really know what the program was. But even then, it's like, there was kind of like, like
Like,
your
what do you
friend, your
mean?
little
Your
friend.
Yeah. Can you focus, please? We asked you who is giving a speech.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That is so interesting. That's something I actually hadn't thought about, where it's like, because we moved from the UK to Australia, and we have like most of our families in the UK or Zim, but we had to make family where we were. And there are people who have really become like family and have like walked, like, they're like mums and dads to me. Like, they've walked with my parents. They've seen me at different stages. And like, even now, like, they'll call, they'll check in, all that kind of stuff. And I hadn't thought about how like, at a wedding, like if we're talking, like, because a wedding is the best scenario to put it in. Like, those are people I'd be relying heavily on, or like even emotionally, you'd be able to tell that these are the people that like I feel safe with. And it's not to blame like the family or anything, but it's like
it's just the consequence of the life we live.
Exactly.
Especially as Zimbabweans. having been scattered.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to someone about how we grew up like all cousins going to my grandparents and we just like flood their place and sleeping on the floor in a line.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then everyone dispersed, and now like you barely speak to those your cousins because of that. So it's just because of the way things have panned out for us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Dang. So on the whole thing of like, I guess in my head I had globalization is the word, but that's very dramatic. But anyway, still, these are the effects of globalization. Yeah. How do you guys, or is there any like nuances of stuff that you've noticed where it's like, so you're currently living in Prague, and how long have you lived there for?
5 years. 6 this month. Wow.
Yeah. And then you studied in SA.
Yeah.
And then you came from Zim to Australia and you stayed in Australia. So like the cultural nuances of like the impact of like the environment that you're in, because the African Australian diaspora is very different to like
the very barely there.
African
diaspora in Prague.
I was gonna say, it's like you. Okay, so you were from South Africa. To be fair, you started off strong. You were in South Africa. You were doing well. You were enjoying.
I think that's why.
Because she was in the barely there diaspora in Australia, while you were in South Africa living it up, and then you did a switcheroo. So
listen.
Yeah, you had it too good for too many years. Now life was like, let's humble you.
And then it's like good.
Humbled is the word, bruh. On the floor, dragged. So what's the question?
She's just traumatized.
Yeah, she was fucking
triggered.
How do you guys manage, like, not manage, I don't know, like, have you noticed any nuances where it's like what you're exposed to being in Australia and then what you're exposed to being in Prague, and how that like plays into world views, everything, friendship?
In the friendship, I haven't really. I mean, apart from her commiserating with me when something like I can't find someone to do my hair or whatever it is. But I feel like Australia also, I don't know in your experience, has changed over the years.
Yes.
Like when I first came 2007, there was barely any black people here. And like over the years, that's changed.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're not on South Africa levels, but we're definitely, hopefully heading in a positive direction.
Yeah.
So I feel like when now Rumbie tells me about how Prague is, it takes me back to my first years in Australia. So I feel like I can almost walk that journey with her still, where I'm like, okay, I never had it like South Africa. So I do understand the other side where it's like, you walk in and you're the only black person in the room. They're like, Zimbabwe near Kenya, all those kind of stupid questions, right? So, but then now I'm also like enjoying the Australia now, and Melbourne more specifically so because it is more multicultural than Perth. So I feel like...
What?
It is, don't you think?
Perth is like where all the Zimbabweans are.
Perth is where all the Zimbabweans are, but I feel like
I was like, wait,
multicultural.
But I feel like
Zimbabwe is not the only culture.
I know, but I just mean in terms of like feeling the sting. I'm coming from regional Queensland.
Okay, yeah.
Like, how many years ago? 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are you?
Yeah, maybe when I go to Perth, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. I just feel like here I've met more different nations.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just Zimbabwe. And if you're like, okay, I don't want to hang out with Zimbabweans, then there's
who else to hang out with? Yeah. No, that's fair.
For me, how do I?
I almost want to hold your hand. And I'm like, tell us, how is it?
Clearly, I am triggered. There's no other way. It's been hard. I'll be very honest. And we were catching up the other night, talking about this, how when I first moved to the Czech Republic, I think it was survival mode. So just figuring it out and living in the space where I really felt like alone, and that I was like one of the very few black people, or people would stare. And, when I first moved, I was in a small town and there were like barely any black people, and people would just stare. And I really felt like, are they going to like kill me? Which is dramatic, I know.
But it was, what's that movie?
What's
the one with Jordan Peele?
Get Out?
Get Out, yeah. I'm like, come on now, man. Is it?
More than twice.
Yeah, like
get me out of
seriously. So that was really, really hard. And I think what it challenged was my sense of self and like who I am, because you have to like really realize it's not you, it's a lack of knowledge or understanding or open-mindedness. And and it's definitely tricky to navigate in the healthcare system. That's been really complex, where you feel like kind of like a guinea pig sometimes, or they're just like, we don't really know how this manifests in people like you, and the terminology they use, and all these kinds of things. So we definitely commiserate a lot on that, and I think it's moving to Prague helped, and it's gotten better. And my sister moved top of 2024, so that's helped. But it's definitely really difficult to feel people may not care to know about who you are, where you're from, or struggle to shift their mindset from all Black people are refugees and poor. And when you tell them, they're like, still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, or, people not believing you can be a native English speaker just because you're Black from an African country, even though you're from an
colonized.
African... colonized. So many layers to it. It's complicated.
Your mental health too.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, now that we're there, my favorite topic. How is it to, I guess, walk that out with each other, where it's like you can know, but I'm not in close proximity where I can show up for you in the way that I would fully want to while you're going through all these different things?
That's hard. I think that's probably the most difficult aspect of long distance friendships, is knowing that she cannot be there in the in-between, in the crying, in the, like, I just need to offload now. We have to wait till
the time difference
zones
even,
match up. So often what happens is either voice notes or like long texts. However, I will say sometimes I can open up a lot more because you know that there's no face to save in this friendship. You know that she truly like, she wouldn't be there if she didn't truly care, if that makes sense. Like, that's the basis of long distance relationships, right? Yes, it's not for convenience. And I think she's offered guidance even to me, I guess maybe from your own experience, around like, I think you should speak to someone, or a therapist, or like just being a sounding board.
And look, Rumbie used the word effort, and I think it is like work and effort, like not in a bad way though, and I think what was associated with it being bad. But I feel like you also have to be creative in how you show up. Someone who's not right, like how do you make them feel loved? Of course, we love online shopping because that saves you a lot, right? Like even just getting some flowers or getting... Sometimes you can actually show up more so than someone who can show up physically. Because sometimes if someone's there and they're like, they like can take it for granted, right? But then if I'm thinking, okay, Rumbie sounded really down on the phone, let me think of, she knows I would have then gone an extra step out of my way. But I've also been like so happy when a sister moved as well, because even as a friend, you're like,
thank
wow.
goodness.
You're like, wow, it's good. Like, for her to even just see someone else who reminds her of home and makes her feel at home. So it's like also celebrating those, like being creative, I think, and finding ways to celebrate each other, which are not typical. I can't take you out for brunch. I can't, say, oh, let's go for cocktails tonight. Let's just take out. Let's watch a movie. I can't do those things. So what else can I do?
True.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I'm like, I don't know if I have anything. The conversation went everywhere. Like
questions, by the way, because I don't think we've ever like delved in some of these aspects before. I think we know, but like
to verbalize it is so different.
So now I'm just like, kind of like.
And you do take it for granted. Like I think a part of me thinks, okay, even if Rumbie can't answer the phone now, I know she'll listen to all my ramblings. My 20-minute podcast, also known as a voice note.
I'm known as that person. They're like, this is why you have a podcast. I'm like, but you're gonna listen anyway, so shut up.
But like, I think over the years, but I always appreciate her and her perspective, because it's like, I feel like also what happens when you're in a long distance is that the person then celebrates just you. Whereas, I don't know if you're mutual friends and all around each other, it's like, there's also some self-interest there. But with this, it's like, no, she's just there for me. I don't know, it's a weird thing to
And
describe.
I think you almost fiercely protect that person. I don't know how to explain it. It's like because no one sits in that position. It's yeah, it's a very specific place. So
Yeah.
you fiercely protect, fiercely celebrate, fiercely, like, you're there for that person, sometimes challenging, offering different perspectives. But it's like a very special place that, yeah, you're right. You're right. And I sometimes wonder if we had not been long distance friends,
If it would
how
have.
this friendship would have played out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, would
Yeah.
it have? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, with the girls like from the initial group, are there any that you guys still?
Like from high school
Yeah.
that we're still friends with?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I can only speak for myself personally. I feel like I've always managed to be like, let's meet up for coffee kind of friends. Like,
Yeah.
where it's like, we're cordial, we can definitely hang out. But like, Rumbie has a certain different, there's a place she can go that not everyone else can for me.
Yeah.
So I love them all. And I think they're all great girls, but definitely, like, I flew for this girl 6 weeks after giving birth
Yeah,
for her wedding.
for my wedding.
And then when I couldn't make
The
it, I thought I couldn't
commitment.
make it. I was like,
She sent me this video. She's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and like anyone else, I would have been like, okay,
Sorry.
sorry, where's your
Yeah.
gift registry? I'll buy you something. So like,
Yeah.
that just also shows me how there's a special space for her too. But it's not to say like those girls, you can be close to someone, but there's a different closeness with different
Yeah.
people.
I mean, from listening to you speak, it sounds like you guys have taken the time to cultivate the intimacy, and so yeah, it wouldn't be the same.
No,
I don't
Where
think
it's
so.
like we're friends, like we're homies. That's a good place to use homies. Like we're homies, but like this is my friend. Like we do life together.
Yeah.
And we've been through like life together. Like things shift. Like we've walked many difficult highs, lows, and all that together. And I think with some of our other friends from high school, it's like been in and out.
Yeah.
And it's very hard
Or
to
catch
make.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also have their respective
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
close friends
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we see this relationship a lot with our other, like,
Yeah.
I have other friends who, like, I think went to Zim in April and other friends flew for
Yes.
another person's
Yeah.
wedding. And I was like, oh, like, you also think, oh, you're this close. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, they are
Like you
actually.
Going on holiday
So
together.
Yeah.
So it's
So somehow, but I don't know if it's like we went through the trenches
trauma
of
bonding.
boarding together
yes,
and we made it out alive.
bond.
Yeah, 100%.
You're like, this worked great. I love it. How do you, this is actually one that I've been thinking about more like personally as I've been looking at what my year looks like and how to, I guess, keep the long distance friendships I have is like how to stay actively engaged in the friendship. Because with like social media and just, I think it makes it easier to send each other a meme or like
Yeah.
you see what someone's doing on Instagram and something that was an actual friendship can also can turn into like a parasocial relationship where it's like I see enough, I know enough, and I know I can text you or call you, and so you're kind of getting comfortable in the history that you've like that you're standing on instead of like actively investing. So like what has that been like? You said who? I said oop.
That's a great question.
But I feel like friendships ebb and flow.
Yeah.
So even if you have a recipe that works today, it might not a year from now.
Yeah.
But obviously you do have to still communicate in real time, like, and make time. So even though you're like liking their things on socials and blah, 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 you still have to check in, right? And we all know social media is only like a snippet
Literally.
of our actual life.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be intentional. You
Yeah.
have to be intentional. Like, okay, girly, once a month, let's put it in the calendar, whatever it is
Yeah.
that works for you, and you hold each other to it. It's tough, I know, because sometimes someone can be like, oh, something came up, I can't do it. But like, really, if they are intentional as you are, it should match. Or they know the importance of, okay, we need to catch up, we need to check in on each other beyond the social media stuff.
Yeah. But you actively have to make the time. We haven't caught up in a while. Let's catch up. Literally, it's like, when are you free? Okay, this date I'm not at. Like, girl.
The matching of calendars once you get older. I was like, I never thought I'd be this person. How do you, I'll see you in June.
Yeah,
And we are
in
keeping that date
January.
sacred.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and it has to
sure.
be like that with your catch-ups too.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
keeping that day sacred. Yeah.
Definitely. And then I think what's happened, thankfully, as you get older, maybe you've worked more, so you can afford a bit more, and so you travel.
Yo, guys, what's the Davido said where he said, love is sweet, but when money enter, love is sweeter.
Yeah.
That counts for everything.
That's, yeah.
No, honestly.
Travel.
2023,
Travel.
my friends and I went to Promised Land together. I'm like, oh, this is such a nice experience. I mean, we're not going back because we realized we're not like festival people like that. But we were like, this was such a nice experience, and how nice that we're all able to like,
be here.
and you're not thinking, oh, we have to buy someone a plane ticket so that they can also be here with us. Like,
And I think years ago we spoke with Rumbie's sister even that we should go to Europe together.
Yeah.
And then we never did it, right? Because obviously then like life happened.
Yeah.
But it's like nice that we could circle back, and then this year, 2024, we went to Afro Nation together. So it was like a nice,
so cool.
like, oh my God, we finally did our Europe trip, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like that where it's, Rumbie is right. You start to get into a different phase of your life, and then hopefully you can circle back. I feel like with friendships, good friendships, even if time passes, there should be like that respect for each other where you can still circle back. Like, I haven't talked to you in ages.
Yeah.
How are you? You know? Whereas I feel like sometimes women were pitted against each other to the point where it's like, oh, I don't talk to her. Like, you know, it's like, no, but you can still leave it at a point where it's full of love. Even though your life is full, my life is full, it's not a door that's closed.
Yeah.
For sure. And there's always room to, and I think to your question about how to keep it alive, I think I call myself an introvert. Some will say I'm an ambivert or whatever. But I only have so much room for so many people in my life.
Yeah.
So inevitably, you can't be so close to as many people. Like, I think it's really hard to have really meaningful.
Yeah.
So you need to be honest with yourself too, right? It's like, how many relationships can I invest in? And it's okay, this relationship is here for convenience, not like in a, like, I'm using you, but it's like, it's a support system I need where I'm located. This is do you understand? And it's okay to understand that we have room for different people at different phases and spaces. And at some point, like, maybe she has less room for me because she's now a mother and all that. And you give grace and room, but don't take it personally, because hopefully when you're in relationship with someone, your intentions are pure. And often when they aren't, then those friendships don't last. That makes sense.
I mean, we see it a lot when people get a boyfriend and you're two single
That
girlies,
was going to be my next
and then one of you has a dude and you're like, oh, you know, like you see it, right? Because obviously she won't be able to give you as much time as before. But you just navigate that. I think with honesty and respect as well.
But also don't dump your friends, eh?
I was going to say that Zim thing where they're like, okay, now you're a married woman. You must hang out with your married woman friends. Like, what's...
Like, and that's something
You guys,
we
don't subscribe to that?
No, not
okay.
at all. I picked up from Amanda a lot, I think, because she got married first. She was in a relationship before me. She got married first and all that. But I never felt like she was like, well, I'm a married girl now, so I ain't got no time for you.
Me and my husband. Me and my family. I'll be back.
I think there's room and space for... Don't isolate people. Because if that relationship don't work out...
then...
Where you have to come back.
Who are you calling?
Please.
Or who are you going to be able to confide in if you're having challenges? And
And I feel like your husband or your partner or your boyfriend or whatever should know the important people in your life. So they should also
100%.
be encouraging you to spend time with them.
Yeah.
I've never understood that dumping things. I'm like, so what's your dude saying? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause I've
like, are
also
they
been
okay
like,
with this?
oh, haven't you caught up with, you
Your
know?
homie?
Yeah.
So it's a weird dynamic
weird.
from the beginning.
Plus, it's also like, back to the quote I had mentioned earlier, I feel like the person that they also fell in love with is the culmination of all the people that you hang out with and the things that they bring out of you. And so now that you've dumped all of us, now what?
At you like, can you be my bestie and talk about the sales?
You
on
know,
Instagram?
like...
And it's also very... what's the thing? Like, when you're isolated, it's very dangerous. Because then, I think it's very dangerous.
No, I think that also is usually a sign of abuse in a relationship where it's like, now they don't want you to hang out with everybody. What's going on?
Hot take. No wonder why a lot of Zim aunties are in very questionable relationships, because they dumped all the homies and just, you know.
Whether or not it will happen is another thing. But I think someone else was thinking the same thing and was asking which schools. And you're like, don't do that, or like whatever. Then she's like, I already made the decision to do it.
Give me the schools.
Who knows their schools? I don't need you. But I was quite proud of her.
I don't need your 2 cents, bruh.
Because now it's like you read all these comments about don't do that to your kid will hate you. I'm like, you know, then there's one or two people did comment and say, oh, that happened to me. I went back to Zim for high school and I'm fine with my parents. I loved it actually because I felt alienated here in school. I was the only black person.
Especially by the time you get to high school, there's so much mess.
Right, and then the bullying, you know. So it's like, sometimes people go on there for advice and then people just like...
do the complete opposite.
They're dumping all their...
Yeah.
But
because they didn't have homies, to circle
no,
back.
that's what I was going to say. The common one is, oh, now that you're a married woman, you need to get you married friends and da-da-da-da. And it's like, the basis of our friendship cannot be that we're both married. 100%. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? What about the people who've known the, like, progression of who I am? Like, they can speak more clearly into my life and into any marital issues we may have. They're like, girl,
I've literally
this was
been
an issue.
Dumped, and I'm like, oh well, it is what it is. So much for friendship.
Yeah, that's rough. That's the ghetto part, I feel, of like growing into adult friendships is like the different reasons.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's friends like that surprise you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not always like you be like, oh, same wavelength, and then you realize different wavelength.
We were never together.
Yeah. Then I'm like, did I know you? Like if this, anyway.
Yeah, that part.
That's
I start to question everything, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
But it's like, no, did you know you? Did you know you? Not did I know you? Did you know you? I knew the version you presented to me.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite. This is how we end every episode. What is one thing you think everybody should have in their toolbox of life? Like one thing that they should know?
Don't look at me. I opened.
Yeah, I was like, individual answers. Thank you.
Emotional intelligence. I think a lot of times...
That's a buzzword. Let's unpack it.
Buzzword, definitely. Let's unpack it. I think sometimes people think... Like the other day, we were talking about... and I was talking about this with my husband, and he was like, oh, but I had to tell. I was like, yeah, you have to tell the person whatever, like a negative feedback, circling back to what you said before about feedback. But I was like, but you don't have to tell them then. Like, you know, wait. And he's like, oh, but how am I to know that? And I'm like, it's those nuances that sometimes when you're like emotionally attuned, that you can be like, okay, let me. I think it's a skill that's like, sometimes people are like so quick to tell you their opinions, but like sometimes it's like a time and a place, and it takes a bit of emotional intelligence to kind of go, not now or later or now. Sometimes you do have to do it right there and then. But I think even, I feel for me, mental health, like just that whole space, mental awareness, all of that ties. And I know these are all buzzwords now. Everyone's talking therapy, speech, and everything. But I feel like really putting yourself in that person's shoes and thinking, how would I feel if that happened to me? And then operating from that is something that's really good to have in your toolbox. Because if you hone in on it,
it can be real.
It can be really useful.
I want to add on to that because my therapist said something to me, and I was like, oh, why would you say that? She wasn't wrong.
She was therapizing, doing her job.
It's one of those ones where you're like, oh, okay. So I was explaining a situation that was happening in the friendship and how I felt like this was a conversation that needed to be had. And she's like, do you feel like, is it actually a conversation that needs to be had, or you want to have the conversation? Because they're not really the same thing. Like, it's not everything that always needs a conversation. Like, if you didn't have this conversation, could things be like, and I was like, oh.
Or are you giving that conversation power, right?
Yeah. And I was like, oh.
And hinging a decision maybe that you need to make on having
The
that conversation instead of
Yeah.
just making that decision.
Yeah.
Which is either let it go or keep it moving. You know what I mean?
And that's really what it essentially like at the time. What we were discussing was one of those things where it's like, let it go.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that because in my head and to that point, like up until that point, what I understood is like being emotionally intelligent, being able to like sit down and have the conversation, you know, and being able. And she was like, but. Is that necessary? She's like, is that beneficial for the both of you? Or is that just going to be like great for you?
Effect, right?
Yeah.
You feel like, oh, I've let it all out. But
And and I was like, oh, okay.
Savage.
Literally.
Wow. But good savage.
Good savage. I was like, thank you. It hasn't left me. Like when she said it, I was like, oh, this is never going to leave me. I'm never going to be the same after this. Like, is this a conversation that actually needs to be had?
For me, I think everyone needs, there are many things, but I think acceptance is very powerful. Acceptance, and it can go to self, acceptance of a situation, what is, acceptance of who others are.
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful because it releases you of like this feeling that it's unfair, life's unfair, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And also of accepting our own flaws, because sometimes we reject those parts of ourselves, which essentially you're rejecting yourself. No matter how much you love the good parts, if you're not able to accept
Fullness.
that you're flawed,
Yeah.
you'll never truly accept or love yourself, I
Yeah.
don't think. I think also accepting change, and that change is, as they say, the only constant in life.
Yeah.
Because that gives you the room to say, today I may love this and tomorrow I may hate it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But if we're so hell-bent on, like, what I was saying earlier about canceling your favorite celebs and saying, I only, roll with, what if, you're so tied to this, but maybe actually you need to be rolling with someone else, I think that's really, really key. And I think learning, open-mindedness and learning.
Yes.
Meaning constantly educating and internalize, not just like reading for the sake of it, but like you truly learning and wanting to learn and being curious to learn are like really valuable.
I love those words.
Mic drop, Rumbie.
Right. It has been such a fun episode. Thank you guys for coming on and making time.
You think when you've been interviewed or done, like, you've answered everything, surely. And wow, this is a gift.
You in your bag, girl.
you.
In your bag.
Thank you. I could have sat here talking to you guys for hours,
that
honestly.
I hadn't thought of in
Or in ways I've never thought to think of things.
Oh, wow.
So kudos to you. Keep doing the thing. It was so much fun. I could have gone on and on.
Honestly, I was like, there's so much more. I was like, we could talk about different things, but it's
But we
okay,
will
y'all.
talk.
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna talk. And where can the people find you? Both of you, the podcast, all of it.
So we're on all the socials.
TikTok too?
Yeah.
TikTok.
You guys
too.
harness TikTok?
I don't know about harnessing, but we there.
Okay.
No one else takes our page.
Exactly.
Okay, fair.
Live from here.
Yeah, but it's layered on Instagram, TikTok. It's layered pod on X. We're on Facebook. We have a website. It's layeredpodcast.com. And that's where we at.
Yeah.
And we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
So to
All
actually
of it,
listen
the
to
usual.
which
Yeah,
is
to
actually
listen.
the more important part.
Yeah.
We're all on.
Everywhere. We'd love to see it. And we'll see you guys next time.
Hey,
There's gonna be a next time. You see how I said next time? That was intentional. Next time.
Thank you so
Well,
much
we
for
should
having.
just-
Actually, this
Thank
was
you.
our first sit down together in person podcast interview.
Yes.
Oh, has everything else been virtual?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to me.
Shout out to you.
I did that.
So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. See, we did it.